Good morning, room 108. Today is Wednesday, March 25th, 2020. It is a gloomy, cloudy day outside. I'm really hoping that sun pops through. I love when it does. I was just looking up what the national day is, and it is actually Manatee Appreciation Day, which is pretty cool. Now, I don't know a lot about manatees. Some of you might know some things about manatees, so if you know some cool facts about manatees, you can tell me in your daily journal. If you want to go on Epic and maybe find some books on manatees and read about some manatees or other sea creatures today, you can go ahead and do that as well. I was looking up about manatees and Manatee Appreciation Day, why it's a thing, and I found some cool, fun facts. So I'm going to read those to you. So what's cool about a manatee is that they are an herbivore. So that means that they only eat plants. Now, they live in the ocean, so we can probably think about what kind of plants they eat in the ocean. And they actually have no known enemy. That's pretty cool. So, here are some fun facts about manatees. They have a nickname. It's really funny. They're called sea cows. I like that one. They are actually related to the elephant. Whoa, pretty cool. And they are huge. They can weigh up to 1,200 pounds, and they graze, which is another word for eat, up to 8 hours a day. Now, I don't know about you, but because I have to stay home just like all of us, I feel like I'm grazing up to 8 hours a day right now. And then one more fun fact about a manatee, that manatees continually replace their teeth. Interesting. So for humans, we do lose our teeth, some of our teeth when we're kids, but they grow back in and that's it. We don't lose them anymore. But for a manatee, they keep losing their teeth and then new ones always come in. A new set of teeth is always growing behind the current set of teeth. So it's never ending. That's pretty cool. Now, if you learn any more about manatees today, or if you just know anything else, like I said, tell me in your daily journal. I would love to learn more about manatees. All right, before we read the final chapter of our book, I can't believe we're already here. I got a shirt in the mail, and I know you would appreciate it, so I wanted to show you my new shirt. I washed my hands. How funny is that? I love it. All right, let's get going on our book. We are on the last chapter. Who's excited? All right. Chapter 20, The Winners. At this point, it might be fun to tell how Dave followed the principal back to the cafeteria and how Mrs. Hyatt apologized to the whole 5th grade by trading 3-word phrases back and forth with Dave, who also apologized. And describing the looks on the faces of all those 5th graders in the cafeteria, not to mention Mrs. Marlowe and the rest of the staff, that might be fun too. Or it might be interesting to tell how Mrs. Hyatt called an all-school assembly 5 minutes later by chiming the school intercom, then saying, "Everyone, auditorium, hurry." And how all the teachers in every grade were given 5 minutes at the assembly to explain the new no talking rules to their students, and how loud and confusing it was as they did that. And then how completely quiet it got when the principal announced, "Silence starts now." And it might be enlightening to explain how Mrs. Hyatt had changed the contest so that the kids in kindergarten through 4th were competing grade against grade to see who could say the fewest illegal words during the next 23 hours, and why she thought her way was a better idea than Boys Against Girls. And it might be thought-provoking to explain how Dave felt about all of this, how he felt that he was sort of like Gandhi, and how Mrs. Hyatt was sort of like the British Empire, and how he felt like there had been a great victory with liberty and justice for all, which included Mrs. Hyatt herself. And Mr. Burton, there's a lot that could be told about him because he went completely stratospheric. He spent the last 24 hours of the contest scribbling down notes, taking photos, using a little handheld recorder to capture as many 3-word sentences as possible. He collected so much great material that he began thinking that he could not only write that paper for his human development course, he could practically write a whole book about the kids, about the way the kids and the teachers at Laketon Elementary School had changed the way they expressed themselves, changed their view of language itself, what it is, and how it works, and how communication can take so many different forms. And speaking of human development, it might be fun to explore why the very youngest kids could not even imagine how to go without something as amazing and powerful as talking, not even for 10 minutes, which is why the whole kindergarten was immediately excused from the activity. And how about Thursday morning, when the boys reported 0 honor system word goofs and the girls reported only 1? Telling how Dave and Lindsay reacted to that news would be revealing. And then it would certainly be fun to peek at the challenges Mrs. Hyatt faced as she kept to a strict diet of 3 words at a time. On Wednesday afternoon, and again on Thursday morning, she talked with parents, with the superintendent, with the principals of other schools, with the electrician who arrived to repair the milk cooler, and of course with her teachers and with hundreds of kids, all of whom thought it was great to have a principal who just might be a little bit crazy. In fact, the story could jump a whole week ahead, or even months ahead, to see the way the 5th graders completed the school year as kinder, more careful talkers and thinkers, because there's absolutely more to tell. There's always more. But, as tempting as it is, it's not the time to tell about all of that, because this is the time to jump right to 5th grade lunch on Thursday, right to the point when the original contest was coming to an end. Right to the moment of truth when the boys and the girls were getting ready to compare their final scores. Because with all the goodwill and the happy vibes that swirled out of Mrs. Hyatt's change of heart, plus the excitement of having the whole school go quiet, you might think that somehow the 5th grade boys against girls contest didn't matter anymore. But it did. Remember when Dave stood up and shouted at the principal on Wednesday? Did you think no one was counting? Not true. Everyone was counting. Dave had said 30 words, grand words, brave and true. However, all but 3 of them were illegal. At 12:14, 1 minute before the end of the contest, the cafeteria was silent. Every 5th grader was watching the second hand on the big clock, and so were all the 5th grade teachers, and Mrs. Hyatt, and the custodian, and the school secretary, and the school nurse, too. No one wanted to miss this moment in the history of the Unshushables. Dave and Lindsay sat across from each other at the same lunch table, ready for the big tally. Dave dug around in his back pocket and found the crumbled sheet listing all the points against the girls. Lindsay pulled out her little red notebook and a pencil out of her backpack, and she bent over it, adding and scribbling away. Glancing down, Dave saw something poke out of the top pouch of Lindsay's backpack. A huge permanent marker, a red one. And Dave had no trouble at all imagining a big L on his forehead, because he already knew the final scores for both teams, and he was sure Lindsay did too. With just 15 seconds to go in the silent cafeteria, Lindsay stood up, looked down at the red notebook, took a deep breath, and she talked. I have to say this. My whole opinion changed about boys. You really did the honor system great. And being quiet, also great. Everyone together. So thanks. And then the second hand pointed straight up. And it was 12:15, and the contest was over. A yell went up that nearly peeled the tiles off the floor. Kids jumped out of their seats and ran and stood bouncing face to face with groups of friends, and everyone jabbered faster and louder than human beings ever should, laughing and nodding and telling everybody everything they were thinking and feeling. And the louder it got, the louder everyone had to talk to be heard above the rising tumult, and the sound spiraled up towards the point where dogs run and stick their heads under a sofa. And amid the burst of joy and noise and confusion, Lindsay shouted to Dave, "What's the official count?" Dave nodded, cupped his hands around his mouth, and bellowed, 47 against the girls. Lindsay looked at her notebook. She didn't try to talk. It was too loud for that. She turned the notebook around, and at the bottom of the page, a number was circled. 74 against the boys. A huge defeat. Lindsay gave him an odd smile, and Dave was ready for the teasing to begin. She shouted, "You didn't count?" He was confused. Count? Count what? Lindsay yelled as loud as she could. What I said, at the end. Dave shook his head. What? The sound around them was deafening. Lindsay flipped a page and then turned the red notebook around so Dave could see it. And there was her whole little speech, written out word for word. The last word was thanks. And above it, she'd written a number, 27. Dave nodded slowly as he stared at the speech and saw what Lindsay had done. He did the math in his head. 7 plus 7. She had made the contest an exact tie. 74 points for each team. In their private war, to see who got to label the other a loser, also a tie. Her 27 words matched the illegal ones he had yelled at Mrs. Hyatt. Was it all too perfect? Of course it was. Had Lindsay messed with the score against the boys to make it add up that way? Without a doubt. Would there be a big investigation? Not likely. Dave kept looking at the notebook. Lindsay's speech was filled with crossouts and changes. She'd chosen those last words so carefully, making each one count. He wanted to say, I owe you big time. He also wanted to say, I guess I'm pretty much of an idiot, aren't I? And most of all, he wanted to say what she'd already said, thanks. But Dave and Lindsay just sat there grinning at each other in the noisy cafeteria, and neither of them said a thing. Not one word. The end. We finished. Round of applause. All right. I'm so excited we finished the book. Now, I know it took us a while to read it, so if you forgot some things that happened at the beginning, I bet you could see if you could find this at the library when we go back to school, or I can let someone borrow this book in my classroom. All right. Now, I'm going to let you go for the day. Tomorrow we will start our new book called Matilda. And I'm really excited because I've never actually read the whole book. It's one of my favorite childhood movies, but I've never actually read the whole book. I've started it. So I'm excited to read the whole thing with you. All right, have a great day. I look forward to hearing from all of you in your daily journal entries. Bye.